Hey, what's up, everyone? Morey Croson here with the Performance Lab of California, here to do another breakdown today on Jimmy Garoppolo. I've got a lot of people that have asked me to do this breakdown here, so I thought I would finally decide to do it. I think Garoppolo ended up throwing a touchdown this past weekend, plays for the 49ers. This is going to all be filmed from when he was playing for the Patriots, the stuff from what he did this past weekend. I mean, it was just not a good angle to be able to truly break down his throwing form. Great, but the Patriots stuff's still good. You can kind of see really, what looks like is that he either works with whoever Tom Brady works with in terms of mechanics, or their quarterback coach has a lot of the same type of ideologies and what they're trying to do. And the first thing that stands out to me, just because we did a Tom Brady breakdown recently as well, is they got that early kind of pivot off that back leg, and you can see as he begins throwing how he really pushes forward and really pivots, bends that back knee, which is something that is actually not super common. I mean, there's a lot of people that go with more of an extension with that back knee rather than the pivot and bending the back knee. So, and Tom Brady does the same similar type of thing. Now, I think that one of the things that Garoppolo can work on is he has a little bit of a wasted movement where he's kind of lifting the ball here rather than going through rotation, so he ends up getting that ball kind of stuck behind him a little bit and doesn't allow his shoulder to get into as much external rotation. So if he was here, so he's coming up, and if he was able to kind of bring, when he originally loaded, if he brought that elbow up a little bit higher and was able to start rotation with that pinky from that elbow being in a higher position instead of the ball being above the elbow, then he wouldn't have to lift up that ball. And that's where he's getting that straight lift, where he's kind of just going straight to the side with the ball. You want to kind of stay away from that. And then from here, he goes into that rotation. He still does get a good amount of external rotation of the shoulder. It could just be a little bit better if he just was able to spin that ball right here a little bit sooner, and also start with getting that elbow up a little bit more. So just a little thing that he could probably do within his release that probably affects a little bit on how his overall throwing power is. So I don't think he's going to have as good of a deep ball as like the Joe Flacco's and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady type of guys, just because that elbow stays a little bit lower when he's coming through and throwing. But he does get a good amount of force out of his lower body, and that pivot and pushing out that back leg really helps him get everything all the way around. I think that's a key thing that really all quarterbacks would want to incorporate. The more of the top guys I see, the more guys that I see that are doing that pivot there. So here's more of a deep pass here. You can see here he does a better job of loading and kind of sitting back there, and then really uncorking those hips and turning, gets a really good disassociation. So notice how he goes and he pivots off that back leg, he spins that hip first, and that's where that disassociation comes from. So that, what I'm talking about when I say that, is how well are you able to move your hips towards, I guess, open up your hips during the throw, and also be able to keep your shoulders loaded back. So you can see how his hips start to rotate open, but he's able to at the same time kind of keep those shoulders closed. So his shoulders are kind of facing this way, while his hips are facing more, I'd say more probably like that way. Okay, so he gets those hips open before he has to get the shoulders open. I know that seems pretty natural when you're watching it, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that really struggle in being able to achieve that. Now when he comes through, when he throws the underneath balls, he also does a better job of getting those hips all the way through. Here he kind of ends up with his hips back. You can see how he's at a bit of an angle here as he's trying to come through, rather than getting those hips all the way up and through during the throw. And that, again, I don't know if he's going to be as successful from the deep ball perspective, because he doesn't get that elbow up as well during his loading phase. And then also, the whole thing with not getting his hips all the way through, he kind of gets stuck in extension and doesn't as effectively push off that back leg to get everything moving forward. So he doesn't get as much force into the actual throw. The ball ends up being a little bit underthrown, and I think that that could end up being a big thing when it comes to when it comes down the road and making it so he ends up being really successful. But we'll see. I mean, he could be cleaning up those mechanics as well, so it's tough to say. But you can see here the difference, right? So now, this time he gets his hips through really well. See how he drives that knee all the way through and his hip gets all the way around? Yeah, it looks like he's trying to avoid getting, hit a little bit. But That's more of what you want to do there, is you want to get that hip all the way through, even before he tries to avoid. Right here, that hip isn't far back behind. I'll go back to the last one real quick. You can see how he's at a bit of an angle as he's releasing the ball, where it's kind of the foot is back or out in front, and then it goes in an angle back to the hips, and then you got to go back out into where the ball is released, which boom, release right there. So there's kind of like an angle in how his body is. Okay, you want to try to avoid that. You want to have everything much more straight, more similar to this throw, where you can see how he's rotating. You can see how the foot is right underneath the hip, and then the hip is going to be right even with the ball as he's releasing. So he does get a good job of, again, getting those hips forward and being able to continue thoracic rotation in his upper body. Just going to really want to work on that elbow load, and also work on that good ability to consistently get the hip through. During the deep ball, has got to be able to get the hip through, not just on these underneath passes. But either way, he's still got really good accuracy. He's still really good quarterback. He still does a great job getting those hips through, pushing off that back leg. Just going to be what's going to make his mechanics elite compared to somebody that is just, I guess, average, or I would say probably above average, but at average within the NFL, which is I think where his mechanics are right now. He uses a little bit too much arm strength and utilizes a little bit too much rotation, which could end up getting you into a little bit of trouble when it comes to from an accuracy standpoint. So yeah, that's the breakdown on Jimmy Garoppolo. I appreciate you guys sending in the requests. I want to try to get the requests done for you, so you guys can learn from as many different people as you can on how the right way to throw the football is. If you have any questions, reach out to me, Morey, Morey, at yourperformancelab.com. Check out our online throwing breakdown. We do our online throw program. We're going to do a 5-month program where we help quarterbacks out over a 5-month period of time. You send in your breakdowns. We continue to break it down. We also have a off-season strengthening program. You get access to our online membership. We also get our free blueprint to the perfect throw. If you haven't downloaded that, it is free. Just go onto our website. You'll be able to access that blueprint to the perfect throw. And yeah, as always, guys, thanks for watching these videos. We're going to continue to bring as much value as you can to everybody that watches. Once again, if you have any questions for me, email me, Morey, Morey, at yourperformancelab.com. Thanks. Talk to you soon.